What is going on, my Guardian Gamers? It is I, Byrdman, back with another Destiny 2 build, and today I'm doing my first Prismatic Hunter build for the final shape. This is going to be kind of that, really solid melee build you all are seeing right now, but this is kind of my spin on it. Everything that I think needs to be on it in regards to, making sure it's doing the most damage humanly possible, for ad clear, for bossing, all the different things. But before I get into it, know you can follow me over on YouTube and Twitter at Byrdman778. Give a thumbs up on this video. Let me know something you're interested in seeing down below, whether it's Hunter, Titan, or Warlock. Subscribe, become a member, check the dim link down below, and also make sure you're checking out my max roll page, where me and a lot of other creators are making some awesome Destiny 2 builds. Now, let's jump right on into it. Now, we always start off with the exotic for this setup, and that's going to be the Liar's Handshake. Now, obviously, if you're using the new exotic class item that has this on it, this is also valuable. Unfortunately, you're not going to get the good healing that this adds for you, but at the same time, it'll be pretty valuable. Just combo with something like Caliban's Hand for those awesome ignitions. Now, but for this one specifically, the arm perk reads cross counter. Using your arc melee ability or being hit by a melee attack will allow you to follow up with extremely powerful melee counterpunch that will heal you. This is really nice for a couple different reasons. One, it's just going to be doing more damage as is. We really love having that, but also the fact the healing aspect essentially gives you the ability to just kind of like sit on a boss and just like keep punching and punching and punching and keep healing from it, and not really having to deal with any consequences from that. And obviously too, it's just really good for like ad clearing and getting like out of a scenario really fast. For the Prismatic subclass, first up for our super, we're going to be using that Marksman Golden Gun. Biggest reason is it just juices everybody, it chunks everybody. You're able to use it offensively. The exotic weapon we're using for this setup, obviously, I bet you can guess how it's going to help out with this setup, but it's just really freaking useful. I will say though, you also can do something like Shadow Shot Deadfall if you're wanting to just stop people in their tracks and get some more damage around, but at the same time, the setup as is does a lot of that for you. Take advantage of Golden Gun. For our abilities, I'm going to be using Gambler's Dodge because it's going to obviously work in conjunction with the setup we're using, with kind of doing some dodging, going back into like a punch, dodging punch, dodging punch. This is going to really help out for it. For our melee, we have to use that combination blow for Liar's Handshake, a quick strike that temporarily increases your melee damage when defeating a target and stacks up to 3 times. And defeating targets with this ability also fully refills your class ability energy and restores a small amount of health. So obviously this is going to heal us. It's going to make sure we're getting that Gambler's Dodge back so that we can refill our melee and have that really good just kind of like ebb and flow between the two things. Also for our grenade, we're going to be using that grapple grenade, not only because it just gives us a whole lot of mobility, but also for the fact that we're able to follow up with that nice extra punch at the end of it that's going to do some nice damage. It's going to cause that unraveling, which is going to be a darkness debuff that we need for the rest of this setup. For our aspects, we're going to be using Stylish Executioner. First up, defeating a target affected by an elemental buff grants invisibility and true sight. Well, that's just great for, overall survivability, endgame content, stuff like that. But the second half is also great. After performing a Stylish Executioner, your next melee attack, while invisible, weakens the target. So getting that free weakening is really great. Especially when honestly, against like champs and stuff like that, being able to just kind of like one punch them real quick after, dodging and going invisible and doing all that fun stuff is really nice. And the second one's gonna be a Winter Shroud, and this is gonna be a big part of this setup. Dodging slows nearby enemies, and then slowing targets briefly increases your class ability regeneration. Obviously, that's great. But the biggest reason why we like this is the fact that after 2 uses of this, it's going to obviously freeze the targets, making them more susceptible to melee damage, and also that awesome shattering effect that's been added in for the final shape. Well, it was already in the game Shatter, but at the same time, it's just better now. When it comes to the fragments, we're going to be using Faceted Sacrifice. While you have an Arc, Solar, or Void buff, ability Final Blows grant bonus Darkness Transcendence energy. Obviously, we're always going to be amplified. We're going to be able to go Radiant from our class item. We're going to have Void Overshield from this setup, so you have a lot of different ways to get that going for you. And second up is Faceted Devotion. Defeating targets afflicted by stasis or strand debuffs grants bonus Light Transcendence energy. Simple, slow, freezing, unraveling that are going to come from this setup is going to help boost that Light Transcendence energy and essentially just give us, that really good Transcendence bar back fast. Facet of Ruin increases size and damage of the burst when you shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, and increase the area of effect for solar ignitions. Now, obviously, the first part of this is like the main reason why this is important. Just for the fact that whenever we, break a frozen target, it's going to have a bigger explosion. But before, when I was mentioning using Caliban's Hand with that dual exotic class item, with, you know, Liar's Handshake. Being able to get those ignitions off with this as well is going to be really nice. So this is like something that's good now, but if you're using that dual class item, it's even better. Faceted Protection. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, and while transcendent, this effect is increased. Obviously really good because we're going to be in the thick of it all the time, ensuring that we're going to have some really good damage reduction. And probably the coup de grace, best one of the set, Facet of Courage. Your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets affected with darkness debuffs. Obviously, most targets are going to be slowed or frozen most of the time, and we're going to be using that counter punch, which is an Arc ability. So I think you can put 2 and 2 together and realize this means a lot of damage. But the main exotic weapon we're going to be using for this setup is going to be the Still Hunt. Now, you get this from the Wildcard Exotic mission from Cade whenever you finish the Final Shape campaign. Obviously, it gives you that essentially second golden gun for this setup. So you have a great way of just like, you know, having this be like your super, your heavy, and everything all mixed into one. I really do love this. I really am having a hard time taking this off or justifying taking this off for just, you know, the sheer damage it gives my hunter. And for our heavy, that's kind of up to you. I've been bouncing around doing different things like this retrofit escapade that I have, just using it kind of more or less as a primary weapon. Just because, again, most of the time my call is able to take out enemies pretty fast. I'm mainly just using abilities and meleeing all the time, so this is a good option, especially against like tormentors. You can use something like an Apex Predator if you're looking to just do like some rocket damage to AoE. It's completely up to you. Now, when it comes to the armor and mods we're going to be using for the setup, first up on our helmet, we're going to be using Special and Heavy Ammo Finder, mainly for the fact that it's going to help out our ammo economy throughout the setup. We're mainly just using abilities most of the time, but being able to ensure that our ammo is just like always like staying tip-top shape is important, especially against like bossing and those like mid-level boss enemies. And also hands-on, just because we are going to be punching the entire time. This is going to ensure that we're going to get that super back extremely fast. When it comes to our arms, we're going to be using 3 heavy-handed because it's going to ensure that we only have a 1-second cooldown when we're constantly punching to get those orbs of power. Remember, when you only have 1 of these, it's going to be a 10-second cooldown. When you have 2, it's a 5-second, and 3 of them is a 1-second cooldown. Chest piece is just going to be resistant mods that you are kind of needing at that time. Again, I typically just go with an Arc, Solar, and Void, just to kind of have some good coverage across the board. When it comes to our legs and recuperation, so that we're able to grab those orbs of power and get some health back. And also I went with a double solar weapon surge just to help benefit my Still Hunt, so that whenever I activate that, you know, golden gun feature of it, it's going to be doing about 17% extra solar damage. And then finally on our cloak, we're going to be using a Reaper because whenever we use our dodge and get a weapon kill afterwards, we're going to get an orb of power. Bomber, so that we are getting our grenade back faster every time we use that dodge. You might be saying like, well, why don't you just use, you know, outreach so that you get your melee back faster? Again, you're not really ever losing your melee all that much, and if you do, you can just pop transcendence just to get that combination blowback. And then finally, powerful attraction, so that we're always pulling in those orbs of power every time we dodge. For the artifact mod, pretty much the important things are stuff like threaded blast, because whenever you get like a grapple kill or something like that, you're going to obviously be getting a tangle that's going to pop up. If you shoot that tangle with your call, it's going to create that giant Warmind explosion, ensuring that you're going to be doing, you know, a whole lot of damage. Fourth column, you're going to be wanting all 3 of these mods. Void Hegemony, Hegemony. In the 4th column, you're going to be wanting all 3 of these. First up, Void Hegemony. While you have Void or Prismatic subclass equipped, defeating weakened targets provides a small overshield. Again, doing that Stylus Executioner and getting a hit off with it, we're going to be able to weaken targets, so that's going to be great. Radiant Orbs, so that whenever we pick up more power, we're going to become Radiant for our weapons. Again, that's going to really help out, especially with barrier champions. And then finally, Galvanic Armor. While you have Arc or Prismatic subclass equipped, incoming damage from combatants is reduced while you're amplified, which I mean, is literally all the time when we're using combination blow. And finally, in the last column, Shield Crush. While you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. While you have Amplified or Radiant, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. We're gonna have both of those going pretty consistently, so it's really nice. And then finally, Transference, ensuring that our grenade melee damage is higher when we're Transcendence. And then whenever we get weapon kills while we're in that, we're going to get a little bit of that energy back. When it comes to how this is useful against enemies and in-game content, first up with barrier, this is like the only one where I'm really going to say you probably need to try to match it to something. I also will say this could be a good time to like have like maybe like an LMG down here. Again, like I mentioned, the retrofit escapade, you're gonna be able to pick up orbs power and become radiant, and then you're able to take out barriers that way. On our unstoppable, obviously the call will work really well with this, but we can still also get the shattering effect off on unstoppables when we dodge enough times. And then finally for overloads, again, just using that basic dodge as is going to slow them, so that's immediately going to activate that. But also we can just take advantage of things like, you know, overload hand cannon, or if you even want to use a sword. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoy it. Again, make sure you're letting me know something you want to see down below and liking the video. It really helps us out on the algorithm. Also subscribe and become a member just to help support the channel. Obviously follow me over on YouTube and Twitter for all the different updates on the channel and just random shit I'm doing on the side. And again, make sure you're checking out our max roll page to see all the awesome builds from other great creators like myself, Chadley99, Shield, Maiden, Chunky, and Squirrely Dan. Thanks so much. I hope you guys have a great night, day, whatever it may be.